Here we are in Baxter Boots Studios with the amazingly talented Darwin girl, Jessica Mauboy. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, you just released a new album. Well, is it released yet?
It's not released.
It's not
18th
released.
of October is the release date.
Yeah.
I've chosen to kind of, for not just myself, but the record label. And because I haven't released anything creatively as a whole complete record for about maybe 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been 6 years in the making of Hilda, the record. And basically I really wanted to take my time with it. I previously with other records, I would write it in a year and the year after it'd be released.
Very hip hop.
Yeah, it's very that kind of just get it out there, whatever you can, boom, 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 not really thinking. And this time around, I just felt like I had a lot of time and a lot of patience just to think and think outside the box and work with the people that I want to work with, and it not just be like, oh, I work with that person because that person's, written songs for that legend, or, has, collaborated with that particular person. It was purely who I felt really comfortable with to share that deep stories with and to be safe with and not have any kind of doubt applied on that process, which I've had, obviously, in that experience. And I just wanted to do something that was completely just my process and not having someone in the background saying, oh, no, I don't think that's going to work, where I was kind of really dictating and taking control this time.
Is that a new thing? Because you kind of came out of a almost military environment, really.
Yeah.
True God, honestly, it was pretty military. I mean, I think having
Left,
that,
right, left, right.
it was pretty much like that. And 2006 was the beginning of that. I mean, before that, I was singing country music. I was busking. I was doing something that was quite free, and the freedom of that really excited me. Once I'd kind of hit this kind of pop world, it was very straight for me. And I think my soul and spirit was still there, but it never got the opportunity and never got a chance. It was always kind of, all right, we need to make hits. And that really scared me a lot. I think that instilled a lot of fear in me, that and I'd kind of lost the ability to kind of just sing freely, and whatever that was going to be, or what I was going to thinking or saying, it kind of
There was a template. There was a template there.
So yeah, I just this, in saying that, it really taught me, I guess, the values, the respect, and the acknowledgement to myself, and I started to begin a process of kind of healing and putting up that shield. Gaining that strength and that confidence again, to be able to write this, this kind of dream record. This record is pretty much my dream that I've been dreaming, sleeping on, waking up to, thinking, oh, it's going to happen. And finally I just kind of built up that strength to go, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm doing it. And don't really care what you say.
Yeah. Is it freeing?
Yeah, it is definitely freedom, this record. And I think that time that I got to spend back with my family, to retell those stories, to kind of re-engage and reconnect was my biggest mission for this record.
So is that how you escaped the idol machine?
Yeah, well, because it was just constant after that. I mean, I was just, again, being pulled left, right, and, everyone kind of wanted a piece of that. And I was happy to give that, because music is that. Music is for everyone, and it's definitely a healer. It has so many different tools and power. And I was really happy to give that because I saw the change. I saw the transformation from someone being so completely in their emotions to finding where they need to go, and watching that transition was such a gift back to me. So, you know, I was happy to give that, no matter, you know, that I had to kind of step in uncomfortable potholes, but I did, and I also enjoyed part of it, which was really weird. I loved the experience of flying around and getting to meet people and seeing, you know, people's different process in music, whether it was writing, whether it was thinking it in thought process, to then physically projecting what that was through the microphone. But loved it. Loved the kind of, I mean, mad people, you know, that I got to meet. But, I saw that within my own family. So
Yeah.
you know,
But it was probably the people that weren't mad that were doing your head in. You know, the 70-year-old label executive, like, mate, come on. I know that they're represented in the back corner of the studio. We'll keep it down, but I'll just say we did have an interview with 5 Seconds of Summer, and I think they might be in a little bit of that military zone at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I think they're just on the way out now.
you know, I love them. You know, I respect everyone and their way and their process, and I think it was awesome for me to kind of take that road to kind of the awkwardness, the kind of moments of like, that's actually not how, you know, the conversations even.
And at the end of the day,
I mean,
you were just raised on Slim Dusty, right? He got to
Slim
write every
Dusty,
song he wanted to write.
Charlie Pride, Patsy Cline. Yeah, you know what? It's just
Bit of Troy?
bit of Troy Casadale, definitely. Huge fan. Alan Jackson, definitely. Mum played a lot of Alan Jackson, Brooks and Dunn. And, but yeah, Charlie Pride was a big hit in our family. And I mean, going back to music, I'm one of 5 girls. So my 3 older sisters, my older sister listened to rap music.
Bit of En Vogue.
Oh yeah, my elder sister was like Biggie, Tupac, very heavy on Tupac, but then obviously had this kind of soft soul side, and she listened to quite a bit of Mariah. My second older sister obviously took that musical influence and began to find that love for Mariah and the Spice Girls.
Yeah, right.
And it was just that music time where, you know, we were being hit with radio, and the only thing that, you know, we did listen to was either, you know, Rage or radios.
Yeah.
But and then be out having to like record them on our cassette recorders. Like I remember doing that so deeply. And then my third older sister was like Hansons and Backstreet Boys, and so we had a combination of not only Dad's traditional Indonesian music, but Mom's traditional music, her love of country music. And then my older sisters, what they played heavily, you know, when we'd hang out with them or they'd had to babysit us. So it was just kind of passed down music, but we had a bit of everything, which is so nice. Yeah.
Now, were you more of a TLC family or more of a Destiny's Child family?
TLC, definitely, for life, I think. And obviously that's, you know, from my older sister, she was like, she loved T-Boz. So I remember her one day coming home, and she didn't live with us, but she lived with my dad's parents, and she came home and she had this kind of mullet cut like T-Boz, and we were just sort of like, what are you doing? But the influence of music was even heavy at that time, I remember, and I enjoyed it visually because it was kind of, you know, coming from like 80s into the 90s look, and then you kind of had this kind of ministry soul infusion, which is like La Bouche or I love to love you, and then into like, I mean, and then that's when again country was just coming back in, and you had your Shania Twain, and you had your How Do I Live Without You,
and Madonna too.
Oh, Madonna, huge, So there was just so much kind of
it was coming back in around that time. I'm trying to think who else.
And then I think it kind of went out with Taylor Swift. When she came in and was like, actually,
I
can cash a lot more checks with a bit of a dance beat. Yeah.
But she did really, like, I mean, looking at her process was insane. I mean, she had Don't take me somewhere we could be alone. I mean, that was her like major hit, country pop. And then, you know, she was just like the queen.
When your old man's heard that song, you know, you know it's a hit. Now, tell us that the Aboriginal community in the top end has had a much longer history with Indonesia than, you know, than your family, than just your family. What was it like walking in both worlds growing up?
Oh, it was pretty easy because, I mean, not only did I get to experience being in Yolngu Mata culture, but I also, I mean, my dad took us every Christmas to spend 3 months in Indonesia. You know, as soon as we were born, we went over and, you know, we went to the villages and mainly to a place where my dad's parents are from. So there's a place called, it's Timor-Leste. So it's from the East Timorese side, but from West Timor. So we had such a, I mean, they also had a different dialect to speak, but we got to learn Bahasa. So bisa bahasa sedikit saja, tapi I just said I can speak a little bit. But yeah, it was one of those things where my dad also spoke to us at home, you know, under the roof, and he, it was. I mean, my mother as well, having lost both of her parents so young, she found, I guess, an incredible relationship with my father, who then his parents took her under, you know, took her under their house and taught her everything that they could, and so my mother basically learnt the Indonesian way as well as learnt the language, speaks it fluently, knows how to cook the incredible cuisines. Like, so we grew up with such both rich cultures, and like when I think about it, I think also being outdoors and being so worldly about the two different ways of living and styles of teaching and preaching. Were just so worldly. It already became about the world for me growing up, and not just, you know, living in Darwin, but it became, that place on the map or that place on the map, and what, you know, I was already kind of invited to the rest of the world and teaching myself that there was something bigger.
And the Indo community in Darwin, it's quite big.
Yeah,
so
it's huge.
You weren't just like, you know, outsiders.
No.
You had a lot going on in
well,
town.
my dad was pretty much, and his parents were very heavily. When my grandfather came, my oppa came to Indonesia, was doing, I guess, Indonesian exchanges, so Indonesian goods, and he was. It was a few weeks before Cyclone Tracy, in fact, and he was over working on the wharf there, and it was the day before that they had just received that they were all heading back to Indonesia. So the visas were up, they needed to go back, and I think at the time my father was like, you know, it's so good here, like, and there were people that were going to go and hide and go hide on the farm, and because they'd had such a wonderful experience, and obviously they saw the future of possibly living here in this country, and so determined, he went with another group of men and women who knew of this farm, and he went with them, and they went in hiding in a shed, and it was that next day that Cyclone Tracy hit, and in his language, in 1974. Yeah,
it was
1974.
Christmas Day.
It was Christmas Day.
1974.
There's a few stories here, but so my grandfather.
So he was hiding in a shed. So
he was hiding in a shed with another lady.
On Christmas.
On Christmas, with another man and two other men, and basically he saw the corrugated the roof come off, and they held on to, I think they were just like big massive crates. They were huge crates, and he said in his language, he looked up, and it was for a few seconds, and it felt like felt like 10 minutes, he said. It was like 10 minutes. And then he closed his eyes and he kind of cuddled back up again. And then it was over, he'd said. And when he came out, obviously everything was completely flat, he had said. And he went into town. There was completely nothing. And by that point, they were all helping to clean up the debris and find people. And, I mean, just that was like him telling the story in Bahasa in Indonesian was like, I remember just being like really shaken by it and just I wouldn't know, but also the meaning behind that he really wanted to live a new life and that he wanted to bring his family over and work really hard and learn the Australian way. He was just really determined, and not long after that, I think he was granted an Australian,
the documents got lost in the cyclone.
So the mayor at the time, he was like, you know what, thank you for helping clean up and and bury people and and just clean up the whole of Darwin. And I think not long after that, my oppa worked for the Darwin City Council, and he rebuilt the Botanic Gardens there.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, is that the Portuguese in? Is it Portuguese?
Yeah, there was an Dutch influence.
Oh, Dutch,
Yeah.
Right. So you do have a lot of language.
Yeah.
Like outside of, because I mean, there's a lot of language groups.
Yeah.
With the Aboriginal community up there, but you've also got.
There's huge.
How many languages are there in Indonesia?
A lot.
Yeah. I can't even. I mean, Nakfunu was the place that my grandfather, my oppa, grew up in, and they had a whole different dialect. And I remember going back there as a kid, and I mean, they still live in like bush huts, handmade tree huts, and you go get the water from the well, and no electricity still, but use fire and trade by their farms, to survive and eat. Yeah.
Now, you before Idol, which is obviously, I mean, we'll go into it, but you've got a lot of different groups of fans. So you obviously come through the reality crowd, and then you were a NRL ambassador for a year or two, and then of course you roped in the Rainbow Mafia with Eurovision. And
so crazy, so many different experiences that I've allowed to
I
kind of.
imagine it goes off at NAIDOC too.
Yeah.
When Mauboy comes through.
Yeah, I guess my first kind of audience, was definitely the kind of country pub scene.
Yeah, right. It's a good base, good foundation.
Yeah, and I just remember also, being given my first $50, and I remember my dad saying, "No, give it back." And and then I kind of said to the old man after singing a few songs on the karaoke machine at the airport hotel, I was like, "Oh no, I don't want your money." And that was the kind of first experience of like, "Oh wow, not only does music have that power to give money, but, just kind of, again, talking earlier about having people become present and maybe, it might be the hit of the lyrics or that allows them to sit with whatever they're going through at the time. But yeah, just, that was my first experience of like what that particular audience felt like. And then Idol came along, and that was a whole kind of dictated.
How do you make that decision you're going to be an Idol? Obviously, you were season 3, season 5.
I didn't make that decision. My father did. Oh, actually, my mother did.
Yeah.
So thanks to my mom who pushed me to
shoehorned you into
yeah, like she always does, in such a good way. Like I feel my parents were never stage parents. They never kind of got me ready to the point or told me, "Oh, you have to wear this, you have to wear that, or you have to look like this."
But they wouldn't let you miss an opportunity.
They would never. No. They would never. So, Dad borrowed money from a really good friend of his to fly myself and my mother to Alice Springs at the time, because they'd they travelled through the year before, but they missed that year, so they ended up going to Alice Springs. I don't know, maybe for a scenic view. I'm not quite sure, but
I thought they might have missed people.
Maybe, yeah.
So they didn't go to Darwin.
Yeah, they didn't go to Darwin that year.
Jeez.
They missed out.
So you went to the next closest centre.
So we ended up finding out that they weren't coming. So Dad was like, "Oh, I don't know how you're going to get there in time. How about just wait?" So we came home that afternoon. I just finished school, and Mum and Dad were sitting at the table, and I was like, "This is awkward. This is weird. What is going on? I know this feeling. Like, I almost kind of, I remember this." And and Dad's like, "Oh, Bob, Bob, I sit at the table," and Mum's looking at me, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I know what something's wrong." Anyway, Dad's like, "Oh, so you know that Idol's not coming to Darwin, but it's going to be in Alice Springs." So Mum and I borrowed some money, and we're going to get you and Mum to Alice Springs. And there was I was just like, I don't even want to do this. I don't want it. I actually don't want it. And I think that's when the fear crept in. I was like, the whole idea of being on national TV it's not my thing. Like, I don't really care. And like, I love music, but I'm not that passionate to go on television to sing my lungs out like that. And anyway, so Dad's like pleading. He's like, "No, Bob, this is good. Let's, I know you want this. So let's just give it a go. It's just an audition." So Mum and I went to the convention centre there. We didn't see any people. We were like, "Where's all the people?"
You're shy.
We were freaking out. I was like, "Mum, are we in the right place?" And then she reckoned, "No, I got a text message from this person, said to contact them, and a bus is coming to come pick us up." So I was like, "A bus? Well, where are we going? Where's the audition?" She's like, "Oh, they've changed the location." So we get in this bus and everyone's on there. And I'm freaking out. I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to do this." And Mum's like, "Well, we're here now, so we can't go back." And your father's already paid, for this ticket. We can't.
Do that or we go sightseeing.
Yeah. And anyway, so we get to this 40 k's out of Alice Springs. We get to this kind of this place, and it was just pretty much red dirt, like tumbleweeds tumbling everywhere, and it felt like we were kind of in a country western film.
Was it a cinematography thing?
It was quite incredible. I mean, the wind was legit howling, like it was just coming through the trees and just kind of echoing the trees. And then next minute we're all kind of in this little shed, like tinny shed, waiting to audition. And around the corner, you'd walk around the corner and there's the judges in front of this old rustic abandoned house. So it comes to my turn, and I'm probably like the third last, and I walk out. I'm just, my little 16-year-old self, and in my mind, I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm going to forget the lyrics. I'm going to forget the lyrics." I'm already forgetting the lyrics. They say hi. I think it was Mark, Marsha, and Kyle. Kyle Sanderland. Yeah, and I'm looking at all of them, going, "Oh shit! Like, this is." Okay, all right, this is hardcore now. So they're like, "What are you going to sing for us?" And
thank God you had Marsha there.
Think
about those two other personalities. Mark Holland and Kyle Sanders.
They were getting a little bit like a little bit smart assy with me, and I knew at the time, I was like, I knew that kind of sarcasm that was kind of spinning as they were like, "Oh, it's a big song," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, it is a big song," but I'll try and nail it, and my kind of courtesy was just like, "Okay, I'll try and do this for you." Anyway, so I began to sing. I was like, "I'm nothing if I don't have you." And then
touchdown.
Yeah, it was just like, it was one of those things where I'd seen everyone kind of come back from the auditions and sit back into the shed, and everyone's like, "Oh, I stuffed it up. I swallowed a fly," and that's what I was thinking the whole time. I was like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna probably get about 10 of them," And so I opened my mouth and sing that particular song. but nothing. It was just it was like straight up sweet. Like, I was like, okay, I'd done it. What do you think? And then, they all obviously let me through.
You're coming to Sydney.
You're going to Sydney, Mark reckons. But after that, I was just like, I don't know if I want to go. But anyway, it was 2 weeks after that we ended up flying into Sydney, and it was during winter. And
were they flying you at this stage? Or
you
didn't have to pony up after that?
Yeah, so they flew us straight there, and it was I think at that point it was straight up the top 100.
Okay.
And then from top 100 went to top 50, and it was like through a week that we were auditioning. So top 50, top 40, and then it was down to 25 to the 12. Yeah, top 12 then, which then went on to the live performances. But yeah, like so many different ages, so many different kind of scheduling and like early morning starts, late finishes. Yeah, it was quite robotic. It became like this kind of world that I didn't expect to experience so quickly and heavy. Most of the time it was being kind of very repetitive. I remember like talking to the behind the scenes camera crew, and there was like either dictated. So it was like, I don't want to go too deep, but yeah, it was almost kind of really weird for me, and it kind of through the process was quite annoying. And I remember my mum got annoyed at one point. She's like, I can't handle this. And like just so many people, like, but I'll stay for the next few weeks, and I'll get your dad to to fly. Because it was it came from being quite quiet and on a rhythm to like just boom, like it was
what
crazy.
happened with school too, by the way?
Yes, school. So I ended up, after Idol, I did go back to school. And that was obviously the kind of runner-up.
Yeah.
And it was about a month after,
So you were just
about a month or 2 months that I received a from the record label, a invitation to be a part of the family. Yeah. And wasn't quite sure, didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with music, because I kind of had that wild experience. And I remember just saying to myself throughout the whole Idol experience, I want to go home, I want to see all my sisters, I want to see Dad, and Mum's getting cranky, and I just don't want to do it. Like, it's not fun anymore. Yeah. And just being away from home. I think that was kind of like the hardest bit, was just being in a big city, not being familiar with it, not knowing how it operates. Like, it was just, I didn't know what to expect, but it really drove me to just want to go home. And eventually went home, went back to finish school, and then ended up getting
a bit of a high profile in the schoolyard.
Yeah, it was weird, because I also had quite girls that started to apply, or you think you're up yourself now, or you think you're really good, or you think you're
it's all poppy.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, and I just kind of kept to myself. I built myself around really good friends and people, and I had really good instincts, so I knew what kind of people I wanted to hang around. And I never formed any kind of groups. I never kind of stuck into any groups. I was kind of a very solo kind of person who just loved people, or loved people's energy. And if it was good, I'd be attracted to that and be lit by that. But yeah, I was never kind of into that kind of groupie kind of thing.
So was your experience a few years before going to Tamworth, was that a bit tamer?
Tamer, yes, definitely.
So
much calmer.
14, much.
Yeah, much younger, 14. Yeah. So I'd kind of had the experience of what a competition felt like. I mean, even the country scene was quite catty, I must say. A lot of the girls would kind of... Yeah, I swear, like there was some girls that had the whole outfit, the tassels, the kind of the gear. Too, yeah.
Well, and it's like it's very American in that.
Very influenced by...
Yeah, it doesn't really seem like it's wholly Australian.
Yes.
That's why we're missing
Yeah. And that's when I kind of, that's where I kind of got the first perfect experience of like, it does feel quite American country style. And, you know, with the whole kind of applied makeup I was never pushed into that. Like, mum and dad never, like, I remember just going to Kmart and, you know, buying a white T-shirt and just some jeans and just wore my sneakers. And it was just something that I just loved and enjoyed the process of how country music and storytelling it is, that I just never allowed it to get to me in that way that visually affect me. Yeah.
Well, I guess it was then where they kind of learned that it might have been worth a punt on having a ticket to Alice Springs. A couple of years later, it's like, oh.
Yeah.
She's got form.
The amazing part about that experience was the prize was to experience the Camerata School. So I went and got to see, I think it was Adam Harvey, Adam Brand, and another amazing musician, songwriter, Jake. Oh no, it's gonna haunt me. But he helped with a lot of the auditioning. So when people would go on, or people would be practicing in this particular area, he would go and kind of help them tune and, you know, what are you going to do? Like, is there anything, you know, give advice basically. Yeah. I just remember having a few lessons with them and learning how to write and express a lot more. And I kept a journal. I kept a diary that I always kind of, you know, put the date, written, you know, what had happened that day, or if I'd remembered a lyric that I'd write it in that journal. And I remember having that and written a few songs, having experienced Tamworth. And I remember at that time too, not long after that, I flew back into Sydney. Oh, we drove back into Sydney, sorry. And part of the prize was to re-record or record a song. And I remember I had help from the team or the company at the time that was organising the event, advise on a few songs that were kind of could work. And one of the songs on there that was really, really familiar was Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper. And I never thought of it in the country version, but when I went into the studio and I had one of the sound engineers pull up what he'd been working on as a country version of Girls Just Want to Have Fun, I was just like, I just fell in love. I was like, this is incredible. And put my vocals to it, and it was kind of like the second time recording that I'd ever done and heard my voice through a studio and on a CD, that I just kind of it really it was quite magic. It was like it felt like magic, and I remember my heart was my face was beaming, like I was just smiling, and I couldn't get rid of it. It was too exciting that I knew even then that this was going to be something. I don't know how it was going to evolve or, you know, what the steps are going to be in the future, but I know deeply that this is something I'm going to do. Yeah. And it just kind of, you know, things just started to come up, opportunities like Idol, not long after Idol, record label, to then writing my very first record here in Sydney. And it was just kind of, and I wanted it. I knew I wanted it, but deeply there was just things like there was all that kind of doubt, as you always have in something that you love.
Do you reckon? Do you reckon you could have? It would have been a parallel universe if you'd gotten up there in Alice Springs and sung, you know, a Kev Carmody song, or a country song.
You know, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how it would have worked out.
Do you think you got a country album in you?
I do.
Is that the retirement plan, by the way? A couple of golden guitars.
It's something that I've been thinking, like, has been weighing on my heart because, I mean, again, like, I was so lucky to have.
You're a true fan. It wouldn't be made up.
No, yeah, like I definitely love it. Like good
management in the background.
Yeah. This is a Sony rep, by the way. No, it's definitely something that I've spoken very. I've been spoken out loud in a lot of my interviews and a lot of collaborations with even overseas. Like it's been something that has been manifesting, and I feel definitely in the future sometime. I mean, one of my greatest moments was meeting Charlie Pride, and I bought a ticket, secretly bought a ticket from my mom to fly down into Sydney, and I didn't tell her what it was, but when they got to shake hands, my mom was like, what? Like, is this happening, Baba? And just the light on her face was just like the ultimate. And I guess too, becoming a fan of Charlie Pride, you know, since I was a little girl, having witnessed my mum being so connected with his music, I was so taken by it and needed to have my mum there and experience all the crystal chandelier light up the paintings on the wall.
Well, you don't also you don't want to take that story back to your mum,
No,
and being like, you should have been there.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. No, I had to. I knew that he was in town, and it was, you know, when I found out, I was like, oh, it was so last minute. But I was like, Mum, I booked this flight. I've already paid for it. So all you got to do is just hop on the plane, just bring like a, you know, an outfit, and we'll do the rest. And so Mum was like, what is going on? She was freaking out. And anyway, she landed, got her a car straight to the venue, and yeah, it was like, boom, we were watching Charlie Pride together, and it was just such an awesome moment. Yeah.
Did you do much? Were you like one of those drama kids at school? Because you kind of walked right into the Sapphires and were a natural talent.
I did drama at school.
Yeah.
Miss Sarah was my drama teacher in high school. So if you're listening, Miss Sarah, I just want to say thank you.
'Cause that's all the training I had.
Yeah, no, she was awesome. She was just really just kind of both introvert and extrovert. She would come into the drama school and into drama class, and you know, even really perky in the mornings. And I just thought, wow, this woman is so incredible. Like, I mean, I know she's a teacher and she has to put up with such crap, but like, I just want to be a really good student and like really take in everything that she knows about drama and method acting training. And yeah, I was just one of those kids that saw kind of the deeper side of a person and could feel their energy and understand when not to give it to them and when to give it to them. So yeah, she was one of my favorite teachers, apart from Rolfie. Hey, Rolfie, he'd be listening to shout outs. But yeah, like she really kind of instilled a whole nother unashamed kind of light in me, which I was very quiet. I was a very quiet kid, considering how music kind of affected me and allowed me to really jump out and get out of my comfort zone. But she, on another level of, without music, allowed me to express verbally and physically. Yeah. And I just remember kind of swaying my arms around and, you know, acting like different kinds of animals and not, you know, and in front of my class and not being afraid of doing that, but learning how to be active in my body and be really in tune with how those emotions are, whether it was angry, whether it was happy, whether it was confused. Like, what does confused look like? But not just in my face and in my mind, really in my body. Like, what do those things look like? And she was able to really tap that into me, which was really fun and cool. And I just remember taking all of that experience and applying that to not only Brand New Day, but the Sapphires as well, which was heavily based on expression and physicality.
So, sorry, Brand New Day was the first film.
Brand New Day was my first musical film, which, you know, Ernie Dingo, Deborah Mailman. I mean,
you've got to work with, I mean, the who's who of the top end for sure. I mean, just looking at the Sapphires, you've got Shari Sevens,
Miranda Tapsell,
Warwick Thornton.
Yeah. Like, what a guy. Like, he's one of those people that he's a
true cowboy.
He's a cowboy, the Wookiee, learned so much of him, even from him just being so quiet and sitting there. Like, I was observing him. And he's kind of like a walking film. Like, he's a view. Like, I feel like every time I'm looking at Warwick, I feel like I'm watching a film. Yeah. And even, you know, like Wayne Blair, like he's another fella who's just like, I feel like I'm watching a film. Rachel Perkins was, obviously my first love introduction to film. She got me my first gig.
Was that Blackfellow Films?
That was, yeah.
Yeah, right.
And, but also to working with incredible talent like
Dan
with
Sultan.
Deborah Melman, Dan Sultan. What a fella too. Like I think that was his very first gig too, and like we were just kind of on the same level. We really helped each other out with our scripts, and when we did around the table script readings, he was. I was just as nervous as he was, and I think our energies kind of allowed each other to be a lot more calmer on set. And Annie Ningerly, rest in peace. Like she taught me a lot too. We did a lot of breathing exercises. So there's a lot of techniques that I learned from a lot of people along the way, and I'm just really grateful for them. I just want to, say a huge thank you to, the team of Brand New Day, Sapphires, for, giving me that chance and that air to be able to do something like that.
Well, Dan said, we interviewed Dan Sultan, and he said when he goes back up to Broome, that film could have been released yesterday in Broome, because it's the biggest, it's the biggest film they've got. So the kids kind of get a bit shocked if he looks a bit different.
Yeah, and that too. Like I was just recently there over the weekend, and
they expect you to still be 17, 19. Yeah.
Well, again, like the expectations of, looking back at my 16-year-old self on Idol. I think people still expect me to be that same 16-year-old quiet, kind of, naive kind of gal. And
you're like, I've done a song with Flow Rider since then, guys.
Like Snoop Dogg, please. But like there's just like, it's crazy. I think once you kind of left, someone sitting in their lounge room or having seen that, they don't get to see me every day, but they only get to see me in, a few bulks here and there. So, I understand it from that side, but and respect that. But I also kind of think, yeah, wow, like to still be those people, still be stuck in that time. There would have been amazing moments. I still have those girls who are watching, those young girls who are watching that time, who are now, 18 years old and who are grown adults now. They've changed as well. I'm just like, we're all kind of moving really fast and quickly.
Now, you've got a lot of uncles and aunts, as you've been mentioning, that have been around you. What about Uncle Snoop? How was he? How was that as a kind of mentor in this multifaceted career you've had?
The dog was crazy. he... And so much respect to my older sisters, because they introduced his music to me. Again,
Doggy Style,
back.
that was good,
Yeah, the D-O-double-G. And I think, I remember meeting the first time, and I was like, what? I wish my sister Sandra was here to the look on her face. This is
her Charlie Pride moment.
This is her moment. Like, wow. And I remember I was in Atlanta at the time, and I went back to the hotel and I rang all my sisters. I was like, Sandra, oh my God, you wouldn't believe I just met Snoop, and he had just done a 10-minute rap over one of my songs, Get 'Em Girls. And like she was like, what the fuck? Oh, sorry. She was like, what the heck? And I just like hearing her voice, I could just imagine even her body language. She's like, you're lying. And I'm like, no, I'm not. He was just in the studio and he just laid down his part on the song. And I went through the lyrics. I was like, you can tell him that you got it from the boss, dog. I got the hookup under the rainbow. Like, I just pretty much did the whole thing for her. And she's like, no way.
It was a full Snoop Dogg experience.
We were like screaming. And he was so lovely. I must say, my first kind of introduction to him was, he basically said, look, I love Australia. I heard the song, Bangladesh sent it to me, and I straight up loved it. And
sorry, Bangladesh is the one they always say at the start of the song, Bangladesh.
Bangladesh. Right. Yeah. And he was crazy too, because the day before he had basically said, I'd finished the track, and he was like, this song is really, really cool. I have a really good friend that may want to, put something down. Are you okay for that to happen? I said, yeah, cool, whatever. And not realizing, so when I walked in, there was Snoop, and I'm just like, this is crazy.
Long Beach.
This is crazy. And
was this in LA?
This was in Atlanta, Atlanta,
Right,
Georgia. Yeah. and I'd spent about 2 months in Atlanta, and I was just working with just people who had never left Atlanta, like that don't even have passports.
Yeah,
and
right.
It freaked me out because I'm like, I've traveled all the way over here across the seas from my country.
You don't
and
need to
you've
leave
never
Atlanta,
left
do you?
You've never you've never seen outside of this place. And they're like, nope. I'm like, okay. Will you ever? And they're like, nope.
Yeah.
They're just proper hard.
They got an Olympics in Atlanta. They don't need it. Like,
Yeah.
it's a big city.
It's a big city. They got everything they need. But yeah, it was just like telling them the stories of like growing up at Bush. Like they were just like shocked by that. They were like, no, but you got snakes and you got crocodiles and you got sharks. Like, why would you even swim in your water? I'm like, well, we just kind of adapt. You do when you live in that kind of place.
Crocs don't come near you when you got 100
you
kids in the
don't.
water.
Or if there's certain seasons, so we've learnt how to adapt and survive in our natural environment.
Did you get to hear your song in the clubs in Atlanta?
Yeah, I did. So
That's where they test them, isn't it?
so I've just finished writing Saturday Night with Ludacris, and it was crazy because he was another fella that was so down to earth, really cool. Again, just loved experience in Australia, and I just really love the way you guys live, and I love hearing that. That kind of really rocks my boat, and like, oh well, I definitely live and have experienced a really great upbringing in in my country.
Been to Darwin yet,
yeah. Wait for it. But yeah, he just like a lot of them think of Australia as just like a weapon. Like it's, I mean, the weather or the animals, like it's so crazy. That's the first thing that they talk about. But anyway, so he took me to this one place. I can't even remember what it was called, but it was almost kind of like a strip joint / club. And I was 17 at the time, writing this Get 'Em Girls record, and I'd never kind of seen anything like it. Seen movies and stuff like that, but this was just like, this was out of the zone. This was like out of the comfort zone.
And it's very normalized there, I guess.
It's
a
very
strip
normal.
Club city.
It's
you have
very
dinner
normal.
there.
Yeah, right. You eat like chicken wings and like maple syrup with pancakes. Anyway, we just finished from the studio, and they're like, "Oh, we'd love to take it to the club," and obviously, a star. We go to this place, and it was very kind of low key. There's not a lot of people, but we tested the song out, and it was the Saturday Night song. And it goes, we go right on a Saturday night. All the girls, they just hating because they know we that tight about to. So we played that, and it was
We all know it.
very, very cool. It was very cool because it was the first time having heard it in that kind of environment with those kind of people that live in that environment and play those kinds of music. It's just their scene, and I've seen them go off, and like all the fellas were just like, wow. And at one point I was like, are they just showing off to Luda, or are they just, is this just something that? And I genuinely felt like my feeling of what I'd experienced from hearing it, I was like, wow, this is very cool. This is going to go off.
We're not in the Darwin Airport Lounge anymore.
Like, I feel like this is going to go off at home or kind of set the experience or tone of what that next flow of pop music / R&B was going to be like. So, taking those kinds of songs home was like, it was like a dream, because I'd only ever seen them on Rage, or I'd only ever, recorded them on my tape recorder.
So how long ago would that have been? So you were 7? Yeah, that would have been. That was a few
2000
albums ago.
Yeah, so that was 3 albums ago.
Yeah, 3 albums ago. So that song's still very much getting a run day
cool.
to day.
Yeah, I still hear it.
Yeah.
Like I still hear it on radio stations, and I'm really thankful. I see it streaming highly on with the downloading and stuff. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see when I do release something, automatically a lot of the other songs get bumped up too and are shared. Whereas that was never happening when I put my first record out. It was about selling CDs. It was going to the in-stores. It was signing, hand signing, 500 CDs and meeting and greeting people and saying thank you. Whereas now you just upload a song and instantly people are hearing it. Yeah, like that still blows my mind. I get freaked out by it. But it's such a fast and vast moving type of technology. Yeah.
So what can we expect from this album? Obviously, this is an album of Mauboy uncut.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've been able. You're now in a position where you can push back on the old Leatherman.
Yeah. It's definitely
keep getting these looks from the corner.
It's definitely grown. I feel like I'm not afraid to kind of speak on it. I'm not afraid to kind of share that story because I know it so well, and I've been sitting with it for this whole time of writing music and finally kind of going, no, this is going to work because I can tell this story. No one can tell it better than I do. And I think projecting it that way instills a little bit of fear in the people that I work with because they don't know deeply my story and they haven't been, it's so easy to package something and put something together with color and be a follower, but there's nothing greater than knowing your own story and being able to affect people with that because they've also been through that deeply. So this record is definitely that, and I feel it, and I felt it, even with the first song that I released, Sunday, not as big as Little Things, but still has that same effect where deeply it says something powerful about me, honest and my honest and my truth, and like little things. I mean, everyone loves a ballad. Everyone loves to go to that dark place, to acknowledge it, and to say thank you, to see the light again. So, I think it's quite wonderful that I've really been able to be not afraid in this on this path now. Yeah.
Now, so we can expect, the purest form of Mauboy yet. And then the next album, of course, will be the country album where
Go country. Look at them boots.
But you've had such a interesting career and such a diverse career that we actually can't cover everything today. We didn't even get to go near Eurovision or anything like that. But as we said, you've got fans from everywhere. And
thank you.
Like not many people have moved in as many circles as you in Australian music. I mean, like we said, you've done State of Origins, you've done grand finals.
Well, Origin again. I mean, from like 17 to 25. I mean, I love footy, but I'm not like I'm not. I mean, I'm not a player. I don't know what experience. I don't know what it feels like to be, roughed up on the field.
The NT, what do they call it? The Nutful? Tiwi Islands.
Tiwi Islanders. But I mean, I love the sports. I love to go and watch it. I love, having that experience watching it with my family. But there is some kind of line to, the offer of being an ambassador or the face of it was kind of cool at the time. I didn't quite understand it as much as I know, as much as I do now. But, I'm not a player. I don't know what that feels like to be on a field, and try to get a ball, and that experience, the music made sense. The music of performing for these players and their teams to go and battle on the field made sense to me, but to go and talk field is not my thing. I don't like, and I wanted to make that clear because through that experience I had a lot of people ask, why are you the face of NRL? It just doesn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but the fact that music is connected with these players, and when they go to their rooms, they chuck on a song, or most of them do play my music. That made sense to kind of go and and perform for them, privately, to go and sing to them, to wish them good luck on their, on their next job or their next field, or where they're going to fly to kind of remain all about their game. So
Not
that
to
made
mention
sense
that
to me.
Queensland side of that era was mostly blackfellas too,
Yeah.
so it was like they needed
Well,
you
there
as
was
an
that.
ambassador.
That was that connection too. But yeah, it was a very interesting time because there was a lot of conflict as well about me, being the face of it, and but now I get it. I get both sides. I understand it both. So, but loved it, enjoyed, and will still go and watch the games. And
You'll
be
get your
part of-
AFL grand final too sooner or later.
Yeah.
You've done everything
Love
else.
AFL too. Not ruling that out either.
Like it comes after like when ACDC was the face of the NRL,
Oh yeah.
and they openly admitted to being like, don't know the rules.
Yeah, don't know the
Don't
game.
watch it.
Born
Yeah,
in Scotland
right.
via
We're all from
Mills.
Scotland where there's
Yeah.
no league.
Yeah,
so
right.
We
Well-
just watch the football.
Well, that
Like
would have been like
the
Tina
soccer.
Turner,
Yeah.
like when she did Simply the Best,
Oh,
like
yeah,
they,
became the
and
face.
became the face. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's
Like,
I
there's
should get her back. She
Yeah.
should get up there.
get her to do it. Yeah, get her, bring her back. Simply the Best.
Yeah, well, you can tell me that Macklemore knew the difference between the rugbies.
I know. Yeah, it's a hard one. It's a hard one to be in, and I think if we can drive it musically and not kind of politically, then that's okay. If we can set aside the difference between it and not have someone just bring someone in and pay them big money. Sorry, I'm like speaking on behalf of, I don't know, I'm
Yeah.
speaking on behalf of, but for myself, I think we should set aside, like, these people aren't the face of thing, but we are, admit it, we are paying them to come and perform.
Yeah, for sure.
Or we are paying them that amount of money just to be here to bring excitement. There's no shame in that.
Yeah.
I think, that should be open in a conversation that all communities that do invest in the game, should be a part of, definitely.
Maybe that's a new part of your career that we can think of, because Jay-Z's just been hired as the NFL's creative director.
Oh, wow.
Maybe Mauboy might be
Wow.
heading that way for the NRL. You can be the creative director.
Yeah. Just
Well, musically, I can. Nothing beyond that barrier, I think.
anyone but Meatloaf.
I'll write something, definitely, for sure. But, I think the face is a little bit going too far. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Jess.
Thank you. Thanks,
You've
brothers.
got a lot of fans in the Diamantina Shire. Obviously, you've got fans right around the country.
Oh, big love that way, for sure.
And, thank you. All the best with
Thank
Hilda.
you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mom.
You're listening to Errol Parker and Clancy Overall, editors of the Batuta Advocate, on Desert Rock FM.